Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mitch, and today we're making a video about a video. Or a video about making a video. That's really the only way I can put it. I'm going to split this video into a few parts because it's much more complicated to make a video than you first think, but as you do it more, you'll actually just fly through these steps. Why are you making this video? What's the purpose of it? What's your motivation? What is your video going to be about? What's the topic? What's the subject? What's your niche? Is it going to be a gaming video, or a music video, or a workout video, a lifestyle video? What are you doing this about? I encourage you to write this down. I have to do it all the time because sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing until I put pen to paper. Once you have all that figured out, then you do some planning. Are you going to script this video? Or are you just going to let things fly off the dome? Are you going to go anywhere specific to film this video? Do you want to record outside where you have a lot of natural lighting and a lot of pleasing scenery? How are you going to film this video? Are you going to have your face in it? Are you going to dress a certain way, or, talk a certain way? Maybe you're a faceless YouTuber, who knows? Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want anonymity. Are you gonna have a mask? All these things should be considered before you make a video, especially if it's your first video. If you've already been making videos for a while, I don't know why you're watching this, but if you have been making videos and you're watching this video like, I want to change something up, these are some things you could consider. The second part is the medium, as in, literally, how are you going to make this video? What are you going to use to record? What's your personality like? How are you going to present yourself in this video? What is your style? How do you want someone to hear you? On top of figuring out what you're going to use to record, whether it be, I don't know, your smartphone, a real point and shoot, or like film camera. You're gonna have optical zoom on your video, or are you just gonna have the digital zoom of an iPhone camera? That's really important. But what's even more important is your audio. Your video could be absolutely abysmal. I mean, the worst video you've ever seen in your life, but if your audio is suffering more than your video, no one's gonna watch. That's what keeps people watching. It may really just be a difference between a $100 microphone and a $100 webcam. If you're gonna spend the money somewhere, spend it on the microphone, because that is what will keep people listening. That's, at the end of the day, the most important of the senses when you're watching a YouTube video. Because if you're watching a video and it's dark or it's overexposed, but you can still tell what's going on, what's really gonna take you out of it is if the person who's talking can't be heard, or is too loud, or is too quiet, or sounds grainy, or sounds too punchy. You should consider all these things before pressing record. You could do a few test runs with whatever you already have on your phone. In some cases, it might be a better shot to use a phone because it has, in a lot of situations, stereo speakers and a stereo microphone. So you could capture a better sound profile, but you have to make sure you're close enough to the microphone so you're not boosting it while you're editing, which is later down the line. Essentially, video can lack, but audio cannot. Like, that's the one thing you should take away from this part here, this section. Now, after you're done with the production of this video, you're done with the shooting, you're done with the scripting, you're done with everything that you can do facing the camera. Now it's time to go behind the scenes and do some editing. First of all, I should preface this by saying, if you make or plan to make YouTube videos where you don't open an editing software and you just publish your stuff raw, like you were journaling your day and you were just talking to the camera, you don't really need this part. So I would skip ahead. If you're still interested in how to make a thumbnail, that's later on. But if you don't need any of that, there's not much else I can tell you. You already have what you need. So, thank you for watching this far. Now for everybody else, everyone else who wants to edit their videos, because let's be honest, when was the last time you watched a video on YouTube that wasn't edited, like at all? It's hard to say. Here's what I would suggest. The first thing I would suggest is to watch my previous videos on how to edit, because I can't cover everything here, But for this video specifically, I will cover everything that I have done in this video. I've done some masking, I've done some color adjustment, some color grading, I've done audio effects, I've done music, I've done cutting, obviously, I've done transformations like zooming in and out. I've done a bunch of things in this that are pretty basic because this video isn't that complicated. There is some stuff like maybe reverb or audio levels that you might want to pay attention to. If you are tight on budget, right? You don't have a lot of money to spend on gear or on editing software because those can be expensive nowadays. I have some options here that are worth considering, you know, especially if you're worried about form over function, or if you're worried about the prestige of it. Free options. DaVinci Resolve, which I'm using right now. I have the studio version, which is paid, that's later, but the free version offers you 98% of the functionality with no lifetime license. Clipchamp, that's like the Windows official one. Microsoft made it, so use at your own risk. iMovie, that's a classic one. If you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, I don't see using that as an option to be considered, but, you know. A lot of these are subscription. You have Premiere Pro, which I've used for most of my career until recently. Last year, I switched to DaVinci Resolve. Premiere Pro has a lot of AI-heavy stuff. Even before I left, they had some stuff that was surprising. You have AI transcription in DaVinci Resolve if you want to do captions, but that doesn't always work. Premiere Pro, you can literally generate stuff now, I think. I think you can generate imagery and videos. But in the time I used it, the issues I had with it were the lagginess. Like sometimes it would crash. It wasn't consistently running. Even with all the memory I gave it, it ran out of video memory. I'm sure people who use Premiere Pro know my struggles. Another option that's a subscription is Sony Vegas. I think that there are some free versions of these subscription services, but they're limited, or you can't use it without like a watermark. Filmora is an example of one that has a watermark if you don't use the subscription version or you don't pay for it for life. And then we get to the one-time pay ones, which, you know, they're about the same price as a year of Premiere Pro, Sony Vegas, but you only have to pay once and then never again. You never have to pay to get the new version. You have DaVinci Resolve Studio, which I'm using right now. It allows you to do a lot of film effects like film grain and halation, and also some other visual and auditory adjustments to your video that are more professional grade. Final Cut Pro is, I think, a pretty good one. It's expensive, but it is a pretty good one. I haven't used it, obviously. Not all of these I've used. The only two I've used are Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. Sony Vegas Pro, that's a one-time thing. And Filmora, you can get a perpetual license. Those are just some examples. There are probably hundreds of editing softwares, all with their own perks and downsides. The point I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because as long as you are content with the software and its user interface and its exporting settings, you know, there's no limitations on your creative vision. It's really just about how much you're willing to pay. Or if you'd like to pay nothing at all, what you're willing to sacrifice. So we're in the editing software, right? This is everything I have edited up until the part that you're watching right now. So you can't see it yet. So we have this right here. This is my stinger, you know, I've been doing this for 10 months now. Now, what I want to do, and this is what you saw at the beginning of the video, what I want to do is I want to make my text disappear under my hands, like I'm grabbing it. So what we're going to do, and this is DaVinci Resolve, if you want to know how to edit in something similar to Premiere Pro, for example, I have a video on that as well. First off, you need to duplicate this. So these are linked because it's a video audio thing. You need to duplicate this, hold down Alt or whatever it is on Mac, and copy it over here. Now, we'll get to color grading later in the video, but what I would suggest if you have a color graded clip that isn't just like you imported it and the timeline is color graded and you color graded it in the color tab, I would make this into a compound clip, because then you can do an overlay that isn't complicated. So essentially you grab the curve tool, because usually it's not a geometric shape, it's a mess. So you go around it, just keep clicking. You want to go around in the direction that you started in, like you want to go clockwise or counterclockwise, but whenever you start, you got to keep going in that direction. And then once you get close, you click it, and then you have this shape here. So you can see in this little preview, that is all that is in this frame. What we need to do is start with the tracking, because tracking and masking are two different things. Masking is when you mask it, you get around it, but the tracking part is more important because then you decide where the mask goes. And not only where the mask goes, but where the mask will, adjust. So what I do usually is I just start with where I masked it, I go back a little bit, and then I make some changes. Because you can see on the timeline right here, this little keyframe timeline, it shows you the change. So what we're gonna do is move this back here, and then move it in around the same amount to where it should be, right? And then we keep it like that. And now, I think this will be exactly what we need it to be. One thing I forgot to mention, make sure you right click here and hit add alpha output, and then you connect this blue dot to that, because otherwise you won't be able to do this. Now it's gone. Now we're gonna clean this up a little bit, because as you can see, it's like trying to crop when it shouldn't. And now we can see it. I should have remembered that. Sorry. So that's the first thing. Masking is much simpler than people say or make it look. It's basically just, especially in DaVinci Resolve, it's just about timing. You make sure every frame is right, and you have a pretty clean move. So the most important thing is if your motion is slow and not fast, then you need to make sure you're more precise. But when you have a fast motion like this, especially, and this just goes right over it, literally right over it, it's 2 frames, 1, 2, it's gone. Don't worry about it. We're gonna do some effects. So effects in DaVinci Resolve include titles, which is text. So if you go to titles and you want jittery text like this, which I've used actually before in a second channel video, or text that has a transition or an intro of its own, that is where to go. DaVinci Resolve has a bunch of templates. I basically just use text and text plus, because text plus allows you to use it like it's something on the timeline that can be color graded and such, but you don't really need it for anything else besides that. You can adjust all kinds of things. You can adjust the size, the tracking, which is spaces them out or in. You can do the line spacing up or down, because you'll have like multiple lines, I'm sure. You can change the case. The alignment can really be helpful if you're trying to do like consistent spacing. Position, titles, it's straightforward if you know how to type. You get a font that you want and a face. That's it. And then you have effects that you can apply to text, you can apply to a video, you can apply to anything. So, for text, this is when I'm using Text Plus. This glow, this sheen that I have around it. This is just an example, but every single effect you do will have this usually in Open Effects. When you're doing glow specifically, you want to make sure that it's not too close, not too far. You want it to be like right on the border between too exposed and not exposed enough. And that's where you get this little sheen. And you could do multiple stacked on top of each other, and that can get you more of an effect that you want. Like here I have prism blurs, which give me the RGB, distortion, and the glow on top of it. So you have multiple effects stacked, that can give you a more, surreal look. I won't go through every single effect, obviously. It would be really weird if I did. But what I will say is that when you're configuring, oh, I want to make this, that, search for it. If you don't know where it is in your native software, search it up on the internet, because then you can figure out what things are named in your software, first of all, because sometimes they are different. And then you can also experiment if you do find it. You're like, oh, I want to make this look like a VHS tape. This says analog. So you have like simple effects like glow that just take a little bit of tweaking to get looking good. Then you have some other effects that go outside of the edit tab and into the color tab. I was talking earlier about film look. This is something that you'll do with color grading, especially. If you want to get that, that halation, to all the highlights look very, very bloomy, that is pretty easy to do. You basically just go to Film Look Blend. You can go 100% in either direction. This is what it would look like if it was regular saturation that it has on right now with no film effect. Pretty bright and saturated. So this takes it down, makes it feel more lived in, right? All these things you'll tune with to get that effect. But the real important thing is halation, which, anywhere between 0.3 and 0.5 is good, because too much and then everything is bright, right? And you don't want that. And then your bloom, that's basically just the amount that every highlight kind of pops off. See the difference? Everything becomes a little less detailed. So that all comes with the film look. That's just an example of something you'll do in the color tab. Once you have this node tree set up, you hit Alt-S for a new serial, and this might not be in the order you want. but you can get blurs, you can get all kinds of things. Let's go to color grading. Color grading will mainly be done in one of two places, either in the color tab with this node tree right here, or in your timeline. Because if you import certain clips into your timeline and you know all of them are the same color space, go through File, Project Settings, and Color Management and change the color science. And that can be much quicker than trying to do, I don't know, all of this nonsense here that I struggled with at first. It can be much simpler if you know exactly what it is and you change it in there. Color space transform, you get your input color space and your input gamma. This is usually available in the properties of your clip, or you can find it by searching up like the color space of your camera, the color science of your camera. Sometimes it can be complicated, but essentially if it's here, just click it. And if it's not, then get a close sibling of it. If you're like not sure which one it is, you can search that up too. And then the output color space, you usually want to get to Rec 709 because that is the default color science for most of like your devices where you watch things. And then your gamma, that depends on which one you're using, you know, which input gamma you have. But since I have Apple Log, I pick gamma 2.4. What you'd like to do next usually is work on the exposure, because if we get rid of this, I don't know if we can disable this one for a second. Let's just delete it for a second. As you can see, without adjusting the exposure and the white balance and the saturation and all that, it's very dull. You want to have some buffer between the beginning and the end of your color grade. If you can change the exposure of your clip manually in post-production and make it look more realistic than it did when it first came out of your camera, then you should try to do that. If you can make it brighter, like it was actually that bright in the room, do it. It's all about what you're trying to achieve. Do you want it to look like this, or do you want it to look some other way? Because depending on your style and depending on your vibe you're trying to establish, the mood you're trying to set, this might not be the best fit for you. But this is what I do. I change the exposure so it's overall brighter, and then I usually adjust the temperature, increase it, make it warmer. Usually I increase the contrast a little bit, 1.1, 1.2. Saturation I increase by about 10, and color boosting every now and again, but sometimes it gets excessive. And then I do maybe some lifting or some offsetting because, you know, sometimes you need a little boost for the exposure. Any effects you want to apply in the color tab should happen after your color grading, because if you apply an effect beforehand and then you try to color grade, you're not going to get the right look, and you're going to have to go through several hoops to get it to look exactly what you want to look like, when instead you should have just moved it back. To be perfectly clear, if you're filming on an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever, just some standard smartphone, no lenses, no log file, you don't really need to color grade because there's not much you can do. You can obviously adjust the saturation and exposure a little bit, but what you run into, especially if you notice here, if I increase the saturation too much, you get these weird artifacts when you're color grading, especially with footage that isn't log, because this is an example of Apple Log without any color grading at all. This is Apple Log. This is what you'll get if you record with log. You'll have this gray grain over it. You get a huge file size because it compresses all of the data from the lens, everything, all the color science, all of the contrast and brightness and high and low points, and then you have to extract it with a color space transform. So that's how you can go from this to this. Depending on what you want to do with color grading, it could be very easy or very difficult. The final thing you'll notice right here.
That's really the only way I can put it.
This is music. This is music. This is an example of what I do to effectively add music, because music, first of all, the mood has to be right. You can have all kinds of different music, and depending on what your video is, depending on what style you're going for, what vibe you're going for, the music can change it, make it, or break it. The other thing to consider besides just what music you're going to use is the leveling. This is for audio from your microphone, audio from your sound effects, everything. Leveling is important. The reason it's so low is because when you're listening to all of the audio at the same time, you don't want one to be louder than the other unless it's supposed to be. Now, there's no exact science to this. Around -20 to -30 decibels is what I find to be best for background music. It depends on which track, and it depends on your microphone, and it also depends on, you know, just the volume of your video in general, because YouTube does automatically cap your video volume at a certain point. I wish I could tell you exactly which number to put it at per clip, but you have to listen by ear, literally. And that's why I suggest getting some good monitor headphones. Overall, if there's one thing you should take away while you're editing, it's don't think about it too much. Think about it for sure, because, you know, someone else is going to watch this. If someone else can tolerate your style or even enjoy your style, that's all you need. When it comes to just making your first video, That's all you really need. I've probably given you more than you need, to be honest with you. I don't want to overwhelm you on your first go because you shouldn't think about all of this right away. But you will learn the pros and cons of each technique, of each, style that you choose, and like how you position yourself in your frame will change, and how you zoom or how much you zoom will change, or your music style will change, or how you implement your background effects. All of these things are subject to change because nobody's perfect. You can't get it right on the first try, and you don't even know what right is right now if you're watching this and you're just about to start. So don't stress too much, because at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. And I think that's a little reassuring, hopefully. So now that you've gotten through all of the editing and you're ready to press export, let's get into the prestige. Now, at this point, there's only a few things I have left to tell you. First of all, are you going to make a thumbnail? If you don't, that's okay. YouTube automatically generates a frame from your video and puts it in there. The idea of a thumbnail is to grab someone's attention without them actually seeing the video. It makes them hover over it and think, huh, that's interesting, and click on it. A lot of people will try to sell you the idea that there is a very simple way that's like proven to get people to click on your video. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. What I do personally is I try to capture the energy of the video, as well as the subject and my part in it. If I'm making a video about switching from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve, for example, I'll probably have some of Premiere Pro on the screen, some of DaVinci Resolve on the screen, and me in the middle, switching to it. If I'm talking about why things are cool scientifically and what that means in your brain, and examples in movies and TV, I might have me in front of a green screen cropped out, so I'm in front of a background that has an explosion. These are just examples of thumbnails that don't necessarily have to be exactly what you see in your video, but do tie to what you're talking about in your video. You don't want to copy people, you don't want to steal, you don't want to just Mr. Beastify it, and you don't want to think too hard about it, because at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to click on your video, that's not your fault, because the way that the YouTube system is set up is not entirely skill-based. In fact, it's very low skill required. It's a lot of luck, like a metric ton of luck. Your thumbnail could be absolutely absurd or completely unexpected, and maybe your video will get a lot of views, maybe it won't. But at the end of the day, what should be more important to you than the views and the subscribers is the creation process. I struggled for a period of my career on why I was making videos. And even this year, I've thought about why I'm doing it. Am I doing it to chase the 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscriber goal? Or am I trying to just make something that I want someone else to see? I guess you can decide what's more important to you. Your title should be concise, but also give more information to the viewer in case they want to click on it. They want to know what they're getting into, right? You want to include just enough information to keep them intrigued, but not too much. And that's really it. That's all you really need to make a video from start to finish. The last thing you need to do is upload it to YouTube and publish it. That's it. If you enjoyed this video and you have suggestions, or if you have questions, leave them down in the comment section below, because I love reading them and I'll answer any question that you guys have. Maybe consider liking the video, because if you liked it, you should show your appreciation. It tells YouTube that you like it and that other people might like it. And commenting also helps with that. Interaction with the video is important. That's all I have for you for today. So if you enjoyed, you know where to find me. And as always, I will see every single one of you capable, amazing people in the next video. Bye-bye!